Grove Unleashed.
Welcome to another episode of Grove Unleashed. Is your phone working? We've been trying to contact you about your car's extended warranty. Representative Grove, what else will we be talking about today?
Hey, thanks. Welcome to another edition of Grove Unleashed. And who's tired of those car warranty phone calls? They're awful, aren't they?
I've got like 10 of them.
I
got 10 warranties
10
to
warranties?
through 10 different companies. They're
That's
great.
That's great. Your car should be in perfect working order.
Yeah, my bank account's empty though.
Chuck's joining us today. Hey, Chuck, how are you?
I'm here, and I am ready to hear what Grove is about to unleash upon me.
Well, I got a lot to talk about, and today's episode is me just ranting 20 minutes over the State of the Union and budget stuff, which are pretty much tied as a just global, confused, unknown, I don't know what's happening kind of conversation between the President of the United States and state agencies.
It does seem like what we've heard over the last couple of weeks, but your 5 minutes are up.
Right.
So shut up now.
Shut up now. Yeah. So let's start with State of the Union. Obviously, we have a very old president who mentally is not there. Just by between the state, and I really do believe they had him on some kind of.
Oh, he was on so much Adderall.
It's something. They had him on something, so he was cognizant. Pictures coming out, like just his face looked really weird, and it was just angry grandpa. I really do view it as, you can pull Abe Simpson, whoever, right? Angry guy screaming at the world, and his entire speech was not to the American people.
I thought it was a good ad for Botox.
Maybe. I thought it was actually a pretty bad one for Botox because he didn't look.
I didn't see any
better.
wrinkles.
That's true.
I'm kind of mad at him though because we were all playing State of the Union bingo, and it was the first time that my roommate and my fiance ever watched the State of the Union because they don't really care about politics at all. But now after living with me and me coming home and ranting about politics every day, now they think the world's ending. I'm like, no, this is normal. Don't worry about it. So they watched it with me. We played bingo to make it fun, and Haley beat us 3 times before any of us got a single bingo. So, yeah.
It's nice. So, I mean, when I look at his speech, obviously he's got issues within the Democratic Party, right? From people saying you can't win, you're too old, lack of energy. That speech was completely geared to solidifying his candidacy with the Democratic National Convention, right, heading into August. Had nothing to do with the American people. If you are a Democrat incumbent president and you're looking to beat a Republican in November, why even talk about gun bans, right? Mentioned it. Why talk about it? The amount of interaction and how he interacted with Republicans, not becoming of a president of the United States. Going after the Supreme Court, not becoming of the president of the United States.
Certainly not unifying at all.
Right. I mean, I didn't walk away with anything unifying or saying, wow, what a great job. Just angry old guy screaming at kids to get off his lawn with his cane. That was the entire State of the Union.
He did teach me something though.
What's that?
Is that females in the United States are not without electrical power. I think that was one of my favorite quotes of him from that night.
And Lincoln Riley, coach of USC, is passed away.
Yeah.
It's just really, really sad that is the best. Now, I can say I was not happy with the GOP response either. The good senator from Alabama should have just used her normal voice and spoke to the American people instead of that emotional roller coaster with 6 different facial expressions every single minute. Like, it just fell flat. They should have used Senator Joe Biden's response to one of Reagan's State of the Union. They should have just posted him saying everything that Republicans
contradicting
did.
himself.
Right. Secure the border. Stop the drugs from coming in. Stop the drug cartels, the whole 9 yards. That would have been better. Just, and it's repeated for Republicans. It's screw up after screw up after screw up. Just be yourself and talk to the people. That's all you have to really do. So the whole thing between the two is just a waste. And I really wanted to stay up to see what Biden had to say, how he was going to try to bring the country together. And it was just more division, us against them. It just was really, really bad. It kind of reminded me of Josh Shapiro's budget address, right? Rallying cry for Democrats. It's all it was. These speeches that were always designed to bring the country together and speak to the American people or Pennsylvanians have now become party campaign speeches that should be delivered at a convention or a party function.
And it seems like they're just kind of trying to manifest things. It's like a wish list that they're going to speak it into existence. They're like, I've got these ideas, Josh Shapiro, I've got all this money I want to spend. I've got ideas, but I've got no details. I'm just going to put it out there and it'll just manifest. It'll just happen.
Apparently a blueprint, what qualifies as a blueprint nowadays is, I'll tell you what, if houses had blueprints the same way Governor Shapiro's budget blueprint worked, nothing would be standing nowadays.
All of his big ideas, we have no legislation, no details on. Nothing. So governor does his big budget address, rah, rah, rah. We're going to get all this stuff done. There is no language. Agencies couldn't answer questions. So some examples. So he has this higher ed blueprint, right? Did a press release. That's all we have is a press release, and then they sent out this marketing packet. The most information we got out of it was from the community colleges in that they're participating in these work groups. The Pashy chancellor is getting fired. We found that out, and he's not involved with anything. And the lady that's the head of it, Dr. Kate Shaw, couldn't defend any of it. Like, her defense for a merging of Pashy and community colleges is community colleges are too expensive for Pennsylvanians because the average debt is $5,400. Like,
as somebody with student debt right now, I can tell you, I'd much prefer $5,000.
I had to ask her twice. I'm
right
like, did you just say community colleges are unaffordable? She's like, yeah. I'm like, they're the most affordable. Well, they're still unaffordable because people walk away at $5,400 debt and data this and data that. None of her data. And by the way, all the data she listed, she hired her former company hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money to come up with that data. And that's all she had. I'm going to throw out some data. I'm going to sound smart and look smart. I'm going to throw out data on education, higher education, and that's why we're consolidating. And by the way, consolidation is a financial instrument to save money. So I'm like, are you closing Pashy schools, community college? No, we're not closing anything. Actually, they want to add more cool schools. Like, they were upset that there's not a community college in 67 counties. I'm like, are you adding colleges in 67 counties? Well, no, we're not doing that. I'm like,
then what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? And they didn't know. It was a complete waste. Then you have the governor wanting to put like $1.1 billion into K through 12 education. They couldn't even defend it. So Democrats passed this report, Basic Education Funding Commission. They met. Party line approved this report. It had 3 buckets of money. The big bucket is $5.1 billion over 7 years. There's a bucket for high tax school districts. That's like $955 million that they're going to give them money. And the school districts could use that to reduce school property taxes. So they're just going to give them cash, $955 million, and they could. Have you ever seen a school district get a boatload of money and cut taxes? And then there's this third bucket of low tax schools. So they deemed school districts low tax.
So, and by low tax, you mean schools that are being financially responsible.
Right. That are balancing the budget, not raising taxes.
Schools that, on average actually have very good test scores.
Correct.
That their students are proficient, they're graduating.
Right.
Their
schools that are doing their job.
Money.
Right.
Yeah, the schools that are doing their job.
Right. So it's school districts that are not taxing and have good outcomes, have a lower per student spend. $291 million, they identified that they should be raising their school district property taxes by $291 million. And the Department of Education refused to admit what that meant. They started off with, oh, no, that's tax relief. I'm like, that's not tax relief. That is the local effort. And then they're like, well, school districts need skin in the game. So they need, I'm like, yeah. Like, their only mechanism of raising money is school property taxes. They don't have anything else. There's nothing else they can unilaterally raise. So you want a $291 million school property tax. No, that's not what that means. What does it mean? Well, it means school districts with low tax effort
need to raise their tax effort.
Need to have skin in the game. Like, yeah, $291 million. It took me 6 minutes. Three Republican House members went before me to try to get, this is a tax increase, correct? Well, no. I mean, it went from tax increase to this means nothing. Like, they tried everything to not admit to the residents of Pennsylvania that Josh Shapiro, House Democrats and Senate Democrats, won a $291 million school property tax increase, to the point of, I would say, perjuring themselves throughout the entire testimony they were giving. Finally, it took me 6 minutes staying on them for them to admit, yeah, it's a tax increase.
And we heard more and more of this as these hearings went on.
Right.
The higher ed consolidating the colleges, just about every department that
Right.
there were changes in. It was like, can we get a little bit more detail? No, your 5 minutes are up. Get out.
So, Governor Shapiro has $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. So he's asking for a $3.7 billion increase over last year. $2.5 billion of that are new programs or expanded programs, right? State agencies couldn't answer the new program. Like, what are you doing with this money? Like, this new program, what are you doing? What are your benchmarks? Like, what is your goal in putting $5 million to this program? Like, what's your goal?
And we've heard that a lot too.
Right.
What are your standards? Tell me when you've reached your goal, so we can stop giving you money for this.
So I asked Secretary Arkush. They wanted a significant amount of money to add $10 for SNAP benefits for individuals. It's a federal program. We put $0 into it. So they want to go, the lowest people can get is $25. They want to go up to $35, specifically for seniors and disabled individuals. And I'm like, what's your goal? So listen, it starts off, it's how government programs work, right? It starts off with, okay, you just want to do $10. Where does it end? What's your end goal? Are we going to do a complete federal match where feds put 25 in, we put 25? Like, where's it stop? Is it just this and we're done?
When is enough enough? And when do we say, hey, we have to fund other options, other possibilities than just dumping everything into a state program?
Right. And listen, it's a federal program. Go advocate to the federal government. They need to put more money into it. We have finite dollars. We can't print money, right? We can't call the Fed and move a decimal place. We have to actually balance our budget. And these state agencies under the Shapiro administration, even under Wolf, they didn't care. Spend, 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 tax, tax, tax. Now, I asked Secretary Arkush, I said, so what's your end goal? Like, how much money is it going to take to meet where you want to be? So where do you want to be? She started pontificating about, we want to make sure that no one goes hungry, our seniors are taken care of. Like, okay, or on poverty. Our goal as a state is to end poverty. You don't know how much it's going to cost, but we just continue plowing money into something that's never been solved in the history of the world.
Yeah, until we reach utopia.
Utopia.
I mean, that's really what they're asking for. When the streets are paved with gold and the land of milk and honey for everyone, then you've given your bare minimum. That's enough.
I have a better idea. I think that we should just have all the tax money go to me. That's my plan.
What else is there? So, big initiatives, even big initiatives. Governor wants to do medical marijuana. He had it in last year's budget, right? So he introduced it. No money for last year's budget. Introduced it. This is the direction we're going to go. Comes out full support. Builds it into this year's budget and in future budgets for revenue, right? And we still don't have a draft. So right now we have medical marijuana. That's the Regulatory Oversight Agency's Department of Health. He wants to give this Department of Ag. So he asked the Department of Ag, what do you know about it? Oh, I just know it's going to be great for farmers. How are you going to administer it? I don't know. I don't have any details.
It's a cash crop.
Right. By the way, marijuana is grown indoors, so all your farmers that have outdoor fields, you're not going to get it. Yeah. And by the way, it's probably just going to go to the already licensed processors. So the whole, it's going to rejuvenate our agriculture industry is
you have a whole group of people now, thanks to the medical industry, who have a jump on this.
Right.
And any farmer who thinks they're going to be able to get in on this and actually make any money is probably smoking what he's growing.
Right. And that's the problem we run into. It was just not that. Skill games. He's building revenue this year and into the future on skill games. There's no legislation on it. There's zero. So when you ask him about it, I don't know.
They sure know how to spend the money for it, though.
Mm-hmm.
So every state agency with a new initiative, we asked about the new initiative. What's it? You're going to have to ask the budget secretary. So we had budget secretary in for half a day. We have 25 members, and you have 5 minutes. Do you think you can go back and ask, like, all those state agencies? So 3 weeks of hearings. All those people coming back, you're going to have to ask the budget secretary. We don't know. It's impossible to gauge.
What did you guys start calling it? Monsoning?
Oh, munsoning. It's an adjective, munsoned, to be up a creek without a paddle, to have the whole world in the palm of your hand and below it. That's what munson means. His secretary is, budget secretary's name is Munson, or Yuri Munson. Very nice man. I like him a lot. I enjoy our conversations back and forth, but that's what it felt like to members every time they asked a question and they were referred back to Munson. We're getting Munsoned again. We're not getting answers. We're not having an honest conversation about the finances of the Commonwealth. And this is what we're stuck with. We had 3 weeks of nothing. You know who the best was? And listen, I'm not the biggest fan of this branch of government, but God love the judiciary. They answered the questions. Like, you asked them and you got answers from a bunch of judges. And then our state agencies are completely inept. To the point of, it amazed me how at least the Republican members coalesced around, why are you starting new programs when you can't take care of your basic services of state agencies? Numerous. Aging. Huge problems with their protection services for seniors. Massive problems. Literally, they have a hotline. They have reports of elder abuse. They don't bother investigating, and then the individual dies, and they're like, well, we don't know if it's from abuse. Well, I don't know. They just died. So you got a report of elder abuse. The person dies. There's no investigation to see if elder abuse happened because the counties and the state are just dysfunctional, not talking. And they're just like, I don't know. But the agency has $11.7 million in new initiatives that they really couldn't talk about because they're not sure what it is. The worst part about this budget is the simple admission that the governor is spending down our cash reserves. And when I say cash, it's cash reserves. We have cash in a bank. He's spending down cash reserves. There's 2 buckets. One is a general fund surplus, right? The other is a rainy day fund, which is restricted by statute for emergency use. So asked about this, the budget secretary goes, well, we can only use it for emergencies when we don't have enough revenues to cover it, usually from economic decline. They're reclassifying that as in, well, all the one-time revenues are gone and we jacked up spending by billions of dollars and don't have any money left, so...
Some debts have emerged. It's
magically.
an emergency.
I'm like, well, didn't you cause that? Like, you spending down the surplus are causing the emergency to happen. No.
Burning a hole in the pocket.
Right. And I think this what frustrates people about government. Just the lack of focus on the basic services you should do. I mean, I've said this numerous times during budget hearings. I've been around the block a little bit. I've been through numerous budgets. I've been through numerous governors. They all have their brand new shiny initiatives that are going to change the world and make Pennsylvania a better place. Guess what? It doesn't work. Your $5 million new program isn't going to benefit except probably who you're designing it for, right? A specific industry, a specific demographic of individual. That's all you care about with the singular program. And the state as a whole continues to putter along. Like, we're still on track of losing another congressman because Pennsylvania state government can't get its stuff together. And just do a budget. This governor needs to just introduce a budget that says, we're doing the basics. Like, our state agencies and our government are failing the citizens of this Commonwealth, and we're going to focus on the basic services of which we need to do, and we're going to reinforce them. And you know what? We're going to take all the governor initiatives and all the legislative initiatives. They're gone for a year, and we're going to focus on what these state agencies should be doing, plowing the money in there, and seeing what our ROI, return on investment for the citizens of this Commonwealth. Because I think that's the big problem. I hear it all the time. Like, what are my taxpayers' money going to? What am I funding? What are the benefits for me from the billions I pay, or the billions of dollars that the state collects from the citizens of this Commonwealth. They're having that discussion at the federal level. They're having that discussion at the state level. You need to have that same discussion at the school district, your county, and your local level. What is the benefit? Are my roads better? Are my lives better? Is crime taken care of?
Are my kids better educated?
Are my kids better educated?
And the governor's response this entire time during the budget hearing has been, I don't know, give me more money.
Right.
Yeah, and we hear about tax shifts, more tax, things that will raise more tax.
So, and the funny part is, the governor doesn't even want to talk about tax increases. Like, that's the scam of this entire budget, right? I'm going to use this finite one-time dollars to prop up recurring expenses to get me through my reelection in 2026. The guy wants to run for president, right? Until 2028, right? I want to do zero tax increase budgets. I'm going to spend well over $14 billion of one-time funds during that time, and we're not going to show anything for it.
And you said this too, it seems like it's a going out of business sale
It really is.
for his other
Aspirations.
aspirations.
Right? That's what we're facing here in the Commonwealth. It's very frustrating. It's been a frustrating 3 weeks of budget hearings. At some point we need to just tell the state agencies, stay at home. We're going to bring in the budget secretary for 3 weeks and start with agency A and go through agency Z line by line of the budget and get the answers we want. Because if they're not going to work together and talk to state agencies about their budgets and direction and what new programs are for and stuff, what's the point in doing the hearings?
I heard you mention it several times. Several other representatives mention it. Something that Shapiro talked about in the past, zero-based budgeting. Yeah. Maybe it is time to look at all of this wasteful spending. And some of it is wasteful. Some of it is not. Some of it is absolutely necessary. But what really is and what really isn't? Maybe we should redirect some of our spending, get some of these wasteful programs under control, and stop coming back to the taxpayer with things like, hey, we need to have a tax shift that will generate more money. That's a tax increase.
Right.
Anything like this, it's time to have a serious talk and say, look, we've spent enough. Our budget has increased in the last 20 years from $15 billion to $45 billion.
Right.
What's this about?
Right. I mean, I'll give, so first, zero-based budgeting, right? It's where you go to zero, and then you say, what's a core function of what we're supposed to do as a government? And then you rebuild based on that, successful programs, non-successful programs, and it helps you make decisions efficiently and effectively to make sure finite taxpayer dollars invested in those core areas that are going to move Pennsylvania forward. We had a great discussion, two great discussions about this. One with DCD Secretary Siger, who repeatedly said, we've done a year-long analysis of all of our economic development programs. We found some that really don't work and others that do. When asked multiple times, give me a program that doesn't work, down to when I finally asked him, I'm like, I'm going to push you on this, Secretary. Give me one. Give me one program that you administer that doesn't work. I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm like, you just said you went through analysis with robust data, detailed data. You've done the work. You've said we have programs that don't work. Give me one. Give me one. Couldn't do it. That's a problem.
Wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't. Refused to give me one. One single one. Admitted there are multiple that do not work. Couldn't give me one. Then we had the discussion with Secretary Kush. Now, Secretary Kush was a Montgomery County Commissioner with Josh Shapiro. So she served with Uri, she served with Josh, right? She implemented zero-based budgeting. Josh left as President Commissioner to be Attorney General. She took over as President Commissioner. She continued that process. It was very successful. It was great. Really helped them balance their budget, refocus state government, talked wonders. Uri was the budget guy for Josh Shapiro at the county level, implemented zero-based budgeting at the county level. His comment was, that's a year of my life I'm not going to get back. It was a lot of work, but it was very successful. And I'm like, can you do it? And he goes, Josh has asked me about it. Why can't we do this? And he's like, well, we need leadership. If the governor's on board, the secretary should be on board. Thus, the deputy secretary should be on board. Thus, who's against it? Right? You have the leadership set to go do it.
The bureaucracy itself is against it.
Right.
Or
The
is
system
it?
itself.
And this is not. I'm not claiming that you are. This is an actual question. Do you think it is Democrat House leadership that is against it? That are against it?
I don't know. This is what I do know. I know everywhere where budget changes, financial policy has changed, it's been successful. Go back to the Great Recession. Washington State, Democrat governor. Their budget people implemented zero-based budgeting. It was actually a combination. It's called priority-based budgeting. So zero-based budgeting with performance-based budgeting mixed together. They took everything down to zero, told all the state agencies, give me the 5 things you're supposed to do. Top 5. And they funded those top 5 agency by agency by agency. What happened? They closed a massive budget shortfall, increased funding to education and other areas, and got rid of all the other stuff.
And got focused on what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. It was wildly successful. If you want to read about it, there's a great book called The Price of Government, written by Tom Osborne. He was there during that time. It's, 20 years old now from the Great Recession, right? But it was a valuable lesson. And other states have done this. Colorado has a SMART Act, right? They look at performance-based budgeting. They look at metrics. It's what we need to do moving forward. I offered our entire caucus in support of it. Let's do it. Let's put it into practice to get ahead of the curve and start curbing back a lot of the reckless spending. And let's have the discussion what works and what doesn't work. And everything should be on the table, right? And, of course, you're going to have mandated costs, right? So pensions. You're going to fund the pensions. Automatic. You don't even have to worry about it, right? Debt. You got to pay your debt, right? Automatic. Federal entitlements, right? It's a federal entitlement. But within the programs themselves, we can have a discussion of what benefits are we paying, what level, costs, the whole. We can have those discussions within those entitlement programs as well.
What are the efficient ways to spend the money in the program?
Correct. And that's where we need to go as a state, without a doubt. We need to realign taxes, revenues, and expectations from citizens. And I think by doing that, when you fix the finances, have a better thought process, have a more thoughtful discussion, a lot of these other problems fall by the wayside.
So have you guys heard of the aid to Afghanistan before? Aid to Afghanistan?
Like the money aid or like a person?
Like the money aid.
Money, yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys have heard of that? Have you heard of aids for a ceasefire?
This sounds like a bad joke.
Really bad joke.
No, this is a setup for fake news. So here is the headline. A playwright is 3 months into a protest during which he refuses to take his daily HIV medicine until the Broadway theater he works for officially condemns Israel.
I would say that's true. I could see that. Like, absolutely true. Not fake news.
It's I believe that could happen.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, and it cracks me up how people think that a Benjamin Netanyahu cares about what some rando playwright from New York thinks about his people getting massacred. But
I just like why is a theater even getting involved to begin with, right? If you as an individual, feel free, but I don't know why any theater anywhere in the world would get involved in international global affairs. Like,
yeah, because what's the point? Who cares?
Right.
What you
Your
think?
job is
What
doing
what
plays.
effect are you going to have?
Right.
None. How about you call your politicians, talk to them.
right.
Even then,
take your meds.
chances are there's nothing they can really do either. I mean,
Yeah, and-
because
and-
at the end of
and
the
if you-
day, this is a foreign country that we're talking about.
Right.
So,
And making yourself weaker is not going to
yeah.
make you fight for your cause any stronger.
Actually, it's problematic for a lot of people. If he's taking HIV to suppress it, like it may be problematic for his partners or anybody else.
yeah, he's
So-
hurting society too.
Right.
All right, last one. Wisconsin law enforcement seized cocaine-infused rollerblades, which had been sent to the U.S. from Colombia.
I think that's fake news because it just comes over the border because Joe Biden doesn't have it secure.
How do you infuse rollerblades with cocaine?
Oh.
That is actually real news.
Really?
That is real news. They're both real. There's no fake news today. We have been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
And I guess the only fake news we did have was talking about the State of the Union as a address to the American people. That was the only fake news we had.
Grove Unleashed.